All right, the work session of May 23rd, 2019 is called to order at 6 p.m. Roll call, Mr. Banta.
Here.
Dr. Cohen.
Here.
Mrs. Frankel.
Here.
Mrs. Quackenbush.
Here.
Mr. Rosenberg. Mr. Santana.
Present.
Mr. Spindell.
Present.
Mrs. Wallace.
Here.
And Mr. Barbarolo, I'm here. Okay, New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of the public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this Act, the Fairlawn Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof distributed to the persons on the approved list, posted in the Board of Education Administrative Office and sent to the Bergen Record and the Star Ledger. The announcement posted for the work session along with the date, place, and time thereof was distributed on May 9, 2019. The items to be discussed during the closed work session, if needed, of the May 23rd work session will be after the regular meeting. May include personnel matters, student matters, legal matters, negotiations, and grievances, and tactics and techniques utilized in protecting public safety and property. The results of these discussions will be made public as soon as possible. Would you please join me in flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. All right, tonight we have this work session. I want to thank Matt Lee, our representative from school boards, for being here. And what we're going to do is we're going to discuss board goals. I want to thank everybody for sending me board goals. I put them all together. I sent them to Matt so he had it and he can put them on a slide. And all I ask that everybody is that when we're discussing the board goals, let's stay on topic. We have about an hour to get everything done. We want to try to get as much accomplished as possible. Matt, all yours.
Alright, so I'm probably going to end up using that.
Okay.
I have markers, so...
They're over here.
Is it over?
I can turn that too if you need that whiteboard as well.
Nope, just need that. It's going to be short notes about what we actually decided. So. Okay. There we go. So, as we discussed already, we're going to be talking about board goals tonight. And board goals are different than district goals. So the district goals revolve around, as we'll talk about in a little bit more detail later, the things that are happening day to day in the school district. Board goals, on the other hand, are about what you guys do as a governance team, and that's the things we're going to talk about tonight. Now, goal setting happens on different timelines for different districts. So board goals especially sometimes will revolve around a calendar year schedule rather than a school year schedule, because obviously in the majority of districts in New Jersey, school board members take office in January and their term ends at the next reorg. Therefore, they give you a full year to talk about the things you want to accomplish as a team. But the classic cycle really revolves around the school year, and this is what I would say at least 70% of the districts that I work with do. They will set board goals and district goals at the same time in the summer or spring, and then begin to enact those things when school opens in September, both on the district and the board level. So this cycle diagram that you see is built around that timeline, and as we see up here, the goal setting happens in the May, June, July timeframe. The idea here is that establishing district goals during that time frame will allow the superintendent to create action plans and put the district goals into operation at the very beginning of the school year. What we suggest here, and we'll talk about that for board goals as well, is that action plans are developed and then goals approved in the July-September timeframe, and that reporting out happens on a periodic basis, both for district and board goals. That, again, leads into the evaluation cycle, and the evaluation cycle for both the superintendent and the Board of Education in this chart is in the spring as well, and this allows us to take an assessment of how we progressed against our goals, and then the whole process starts again. As you can see here, what we typically do and advise before setting board goals is to do board self-evaluation. I know we did that already. I think we did that in January. We talked about that. And again, that's another common adjustment that's happened to the classic schedule, is that board self-evaluation happens at the end of the calendar year to coincide with terms as well. So, classic cycle, any questions? Great.
Did we do a board self-evaluation this past January? I don't think we did. I think it was a year ago.
Is it? Okay.
Sorry, Emily, I can't hear you.
Well, I don't think we did a board self-evaluation this past January. I think it was a year ago.
No, we might have did it in the retreat before that.
It's possible.
I think we did it in the
You
retreat.
do 2 retreats a year.
Yeah, I said
so
we did it in the retreat before that.
I'm probably mixing them up then.
Yeah, that's why I think we did.
Okay. It's not critical that you do a board self-evaluation before you set board goals, but it's helpful, right? Certainly you guys have had enough time to talk about how you operate as a team, because we did 2 annual retreats. I don't do that with any other district in Bergen County, so I think you guys are well prepared for this exercise. No, I don't know what's going on. Is that maybe wrong?
And you just hit the answer.
The mouse.
There you go. Okay. So here's my my Venn diagram, which I always like to present when we're talking about goals. And to me, the most helpful thing about this is it really delineates the difference between a board goal and a district goal. You see the district goals in the blue circle at the bottom. They talk about program and instruction and staff, professional development, etc., facilities projects, all those things that happen on an operational basis in the district. That contrasts with the board goals that you see in the green circle. Board goals are about the process and procedures that the board owns, right? So you have certain duties that are your obligation, right? Classic one is to hire a superintendent. Nobody can hire a superintendent but you guys, right? So that clearly, where you're in the market, would be a board goal. Other things that we've done and actually have been suggested this year are examining the way you operate as a committee or as committees. And that is another process or procedure that's owned by the board. So the object here is to look at goals that you can accomplish on your own. You have the authority to and the ability to, as opposed to setting goals for the board that fall into the operational side of the district. So, district goals, again, you guys have done that separately, but those are jointly set between the superintendent and the board. They are meant to be aimed toward the strategic vision of the board, and they are approved by the board formally by resolution. The action plans are then presented to the board and discussed with the superintendent. Again, board goals, process and procedures owned by the board, typically done with board self-evaluation in mind, and also follow the same process of setting action plans and having periodic evaluations against the progress. And we're not going to talk about our goals or anything like that. Once again, as we always like to do, advise everybody, have a quick look at your mission statement. That should be the basis for what you're thinking about as you move forward with your goal setting. So, I have a typo in there. And these are actually the ones proposed. So, oh no, that's an old slide. My mistake. These are the ones proposed. So, as Ron mentioned, he reached out to all of you to ask you what your ideas would be for board goals for the coming year. I've actually put them onto 2 slides. And we can look at one slide at a time, or however you guys want to do it. This is what's been proposed by the board. So I think the idea now would be for you guys to have a look at the ideas that came in from the rest of the board, and to kind of focus down onto probably the 3 to 5 board goals that you want to concentrate on for the next year.
I think 2 and 8 are part of the same thing. Or 2 and 8 might be combinable.
Yeah, just so
Sure.
everybody knows, there was a little bit of redundancy, but I didn't want to disturb anybody, so I put them all in the way they were sent to me, and this way, I figured tonight we could just say, because there are a couple that were similar.
There are a couple nearly identical
Yeah,
ones.
and they were identical, so, but I didn't want anybody to say, you put mine up.
Do you feel that some of these are not supposed to be board goals, but perhaps
Absolutely.
district goals?
Yep,
Yeah,
I do.
yes.
But it wasn't up to me to edit.
No, I just wanted to make sure.
Yes.
Well, could you give an example of what wouldn't be,
Yeah. The one that says, the trades, bring back trades to district, that would be a district goal.
Absolutely. Yep. Now, you guys may want to have a high-level discussion about what would be necessary to bring back trades to the district, in addition to other curriculum instruction type areas. But you can't do that on your own, right? That's a direction you can set for the district, but you can't compromise the means with the ability to do it, so.
so saying, just for example, bring back trades, direct the superintendent to bring back trades would not be a good board goal for him to make a plan to do it and then report back to us that it was done or not done?
That'd be a district goal.
Okay.
Yep.
Before we waste our time, can
Yes.
you go through them and tell us which ones are not district goals? Which are not board goals?
I can.
I would,
Want that to be done?
yeah,
Yeah.
I
Otherwise
do
we're
think
wasting
it
our
would,
time.
we should eliminate what's not our
Right.
purview and focus on what is.
You guys are gonna tell me what I should eliminate, and I'm happy to eliminate it,
Mhm.
but I won't do that on my own.
No, eliminate.
Yep, so, number one, absolutely, right? I would, and I considered this afternoon when I was putting these into the slide deck, that there are certain goals, both district and board goals, that kind of become part of your process, okay? So, trying to think of a good district example. Sometimes boards will set a district goal of trying to find cost efficiencies throughout the district, right? And it may be a real priority if you're having financial issues, or if, there's community outcry that we need to lower taxes, et cetera. But after a while, that kind of approach and mentality just becomes part of the way you work, right? So you may not use that as one of those things that you want to focus attention on for the coming year. It may just be, this is what we do now, right? Anyway,
Hey, were you?
so you guys have had a lot of discussion. We've done it in our retreats probably at least twice and maybe more. So while that is exactly what you want to do in terms of subject matter for a board goal, you guys may be thinking about that all the time enough already. Okay? But anyway, that is fine. Looking into expanding the co-op program and then bringing trades back to our district, much more in the board goal area. Now, are there things that you can do in terms of supporting your administration in helping achieve goals like that? Sure there are, right? Absolutely. So, this is not entirely not board, but again, we want to concentrate, think back to the green circle on the processes and procedures that you control. Try to reduce spending in all areas, about 3%. I think you guys should have discussion about that.
That's related to budget.
It is related to budget.
Those boards.
Yeah. To me, that is, I don't want to say.
Matt,
You guys say.
Matt, go back to, just one second, go back to, looking at expanding the co-op program, you said that can be a board goal?
No,
No,
I
that's a
I
district
said
goal.
the board can do things to help support the administration.
Okay,
to
all
pursue
right,
that.
that's what I want, that's, because I'm
Yeah,
trying
but
to
you,
get
I,
away from those
it was,
separate.
it was a slip. You did say that is a board goal. You meant that's a district goal.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I caught that.
So again, this is very much related to number one, right? Yeah, this we built into our charter, right? So I would ask you, when you consider that as a board goal, Is that something we need to focus on as a board for the next year because we're just not really getting it quite yet? So that
Which
might
one,
be,
number 5?
yeah,
Yes.
again, up to you. Enhance the process by which we evaluate district and superintendent goals. That to me is a proper board goal. This is your job. This is appraisal, right? That's the appraisal piece of your job. So I don't know what you do now. I don't know where the process falls short, but that's a good examination and discussion for you guys to have together to maybe figure out a better way to do it. Okay. Settle union contracts, clearly a board prerogative, board purview. Yep. Bring up the trades we talked about.
What about them moving around part?
Yeah.
Is Nick happy?
I think so.
You guys only have one employee, so if morale needs to be improved throughout the district, you charge your superintendent with that. As long as he's smiling, we're good.
Just smile. That's
You should ask me, it depends when I talk to him.
We gotta know what his morale
10
is.
o'clock at night.
Maybe we demoralize
No,
the
because I can be
campfire
talking to him in the
without
tank, he dumping water
demands.
on Nicholas's head, so that's not happening.
Okay. Make a bigger commitment to our sports programs and extracurricular activities. So there's a couple components there. One, obviously that's going to be budgetary as well, because commitment sounds to me like you want to expand things, etc. But again, falls more into the district goal, and if that's a vision for the board, you should have discussion about that for a district goal. We've already discussed 10. I think 11, especially the way it's phrased, could be a board goal, because what we're talking about there is monitoring, right? So that's periodic reports on how things are being implemented, not prescribing how they get implemented, but having those discussions. So, and obviously it's about policy, which is clearly your purview as well. So, monitor the communications of the public regarding instruction. I think it's okay to, again, oversee and appraise those things, but not prescribe how they're done, right? Have the discussions, etc., but the communication piece is something that you delegate to your central office so that you make sure that the messages that are going out are cohesive and correct.
No problem.
You're allowed to come in.
Policies and practices. Policies, yeah. Practices typically fall into the regulation piece. Regulations are written by the superintendent, and they are how you put policy into effect. So part of that, I think, is fine. The other part, a little fishy. Advocate for state policies, 100%. Advocate all you want. Reach out to your local representatives, use the NJSBA delegate assembly, all of those areas, absolutely, that's board purview. Revisit how the board receives information and deliberates on the budget for voting. That's the board, right? You guys always have a right. There's plenty of court cases and ethics opinions that speak to the fact that if you need more information, you can ask for more information. But I would keep in mind what your role is in making that decision before you ask for the information. And I would also make sure that you're not using central office to do personal research. If you're going to, and I think I mentioned this at our retreat last time, superintendent's time is a finite resource, right? If you are going to ask for substantial research to be done on a subject, it needs to be a board decision. Superintendents do not report to board members. Superintendents report to the corporate body. That means the board as a whole. So if you guys decide as a group that you want superintendent time spent on X, well, bring that up in a meeting and have that determination made by the full body. So, I think we've paired a little bit. right? Do you need me to go through and take them off the slides? Would that be helpful, or?
Can you delete
Yes.
them? Yeah, delete
Okay.
them. I thought that would be more helpful to me,
Okay.
definitely.
We want you happy.
It looks to
Sorry?
me
I want you
like
happy.
Yes, you must
Dr.
keep me
Dr.
happy.
Cohen probably did all the best note taking, so what do we getting rid of?
Okay, so, number 2. Number 4 is,
No,
oh, now it's.
when I gave them, no.
Because the
That was
numbers
board
are
goals.
changing.
It has to do with number 1, so.
No, number 3 has to be number 1.
The next one.
What is currently number 4?
Yep.
You can do it.
Maintain an atmosphere of inclusiveness,
Yep.
I say.
I disagree with raising that.
Bring back number 6.
They would change it.
Number 6, bring back the trades. And then number 5, you can get rid of the improved morale part.
Yep.
Well, I think you just get rid of number 5, if you can do that.
But
That doesn't need to be a goal, that's what we do.
it still can be, at least depends on how much focus you need.
We just won't vote on it. You won't accept it,
No, whatever.
It's in that time.
Right, okay.
right?
Right, right.
Sure. With the numbers changed.
I think that's what.
Yeah, it's continuing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Number 9 is to delete, we have it on number 1, right? The evaluation prices.
Yep.
The rest of it is.
Number, the original number 12, I think, was part of that.
Oh, Eric practices under 11, scoreboard policies.
Right.
Okay. So. So now we have 1 to 5 and 6 to 10. Okay.
How many do you want us to choose?
Typically, we recommend 3 to 5, and it really falls in line with the goals that superintendents typically have as well. And again, if you didn't set a goal for this, that doesn't mean you don't do things related to it.
Right.
But these are the things that you're going to get behind as a board and really focus on in the coming year. Try to think about things, let me go back to slideshow here. So these are kind of the things that you want to think about when you're doing board goals. So is there PE that you might want to do, right? So are there programs you might want to go to? Are there programs you might want to ask to be brought in to improve governance? What is it that our board self-evaluation typically says about us? And what may you need to learn in order to support the district goals that you've already set, right? So let's just say you set a budget goal, and some of you need some further education on what goes into a budgeting process, maybe what the mechanical pieces and deadlines and things are. Those are things you might want to think about in terms of PE for board members. So there's your 10. Well, there's 5 of your 10, and where do we think we want to go with it?
Question.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, Gene had his hand up.
Yeah, I think number 1 is important because I think we're halfway there, but there's still, I'm still confused and other people are confused, so I think that should definitely be on there because
Top
that,
one.
yeah, number 1. As far as committee and meeting structure and how do ideas from board members get brought to the full board? And I think we're still, in the embryonic stage there.
Okay.
So I think that should be,
1 and
But
3
1
can
and
be
3
combined.
could be reworded
yeah,
as just
you're
a
right.
1.
1 and 3 could be.
Because they really are all part of.
One is
So, like a 1 and a 3.
I'm going to grab one of mine.
Yeah.
I have a procedural question on this. Wouldn't it be more effective to go one by one and do a poll to see which ones we have consensus, rather than just,
We did that way, we did that way.
because we may eliminate something that may be very important to a few board members, and we have to try to be inclusive and take everyone's opinion into account. And if we do a poll and we go one by one, that will eliminate and get the board consensus on some of them, Because the ones that don't have board consensus,
Well, I think we
Good,
should be
okay,
able
well,
to talk about it too, though,
yeah,
before we get.
but,
You want
just
to go one by one?
I don't think we were there yet. I think we were just trying to like structure them a little, and then we could,
Whatever you want to do.
I mean,
Yeah, so
any-
let's go
anybody-
through and just,
No
like,
problem.
we just combine 1 and 3, so we eliminate, let's keep going, and then when we get it refined, then we'll go one by one.
Okay, so anything else that you think might merit combination, for example?
Three and eight.
8 and 2.
Three and eight
2
are
and 2 is the piece
budgetary.
about
And
budget,
3,
right?
8, and 10 all have to do with budget.
Okay.
However, there's a specific amount on number 2, 3%, which is extraordinarily high.
Not only is it a high amount, it's indiscriminate.
Wait, what is-
It's just arbitrary. And you can't,
What happens if the state cuts our funding or something like that? It's just,
I think you can leave.
All right,
I'm
Mike's
really
got-
sorry, but I can't.
Mike, okay,
And he-
Mike's got a question, go ahead, Mike, go ahead, and then we have.
So regarding number 2, that is an impossible goal when we're doing a building referendum and we're opening new classrooms and we have to finish the building and the starting the building. That is an impossible goal this year for us. Unfortunately, I'd love to reduce spending, but there's no way we're going to reduce spending when you have to open up new classrooms. I mean, it's just not going. It's
under,
not going to happen.
under normal circumstances in any district, that can't happen.
Right, but I'm saying we're in an even tougher bind now.
Emily.
So to really make group organizational change on something, it probably is going to take more than one goal in a one-year period. Like the committee structure, for example, we got a good start on it and we want to keep going on it. I think there's other things on here that we can take whatever that next step is with the idea that we might not fully realize the change that we would hope to see from that goal until a couple years down the road. I think in terms of the budget, I think the, just like baby steps toward revisiting how we get information and deliberate on the budget this year would be good. I think my understanding is that the practice that we have has kind of been developed for historical reasons over time, and it could be working in some ways, but we could be doing it differently in a way that works better for these current circumstances. So I think that's a reasonable goal it's like a good time for us to do that. So I would prioritize that one. Also related to budget, of course, is state policy. I think it's also a good time to look at state policies. There's some movement in the state legislature, some bills that are being discussed on ways where state officials are saying these are the true ways to lower the property tax burden on residents in the state of New Jersey. And I think if we all say tax increases really aren't anything we as a board can do about it, really has to do with the state, to put our money where our mouth is around that statement, I think we should jump on the historical moment and start as a board talking more about specific state policies that would be in our district's best interest. I think that'd be really good for our group. So I would also put that one as a priority. And then the other one I wanted to comment on is number 4, enhance the process by which we evaluate district and superintendent's goals. It's kind of like a meta goal. It's like a goal about goals. But I think that's a good goal for where our group is at in terms of the new superintendent evaluation process. I don't know what our district goals are right now. I can't tell you how they were formulated in the past. And I think to really be operating optimally, you want that Venn diagram where the superintendent goals, the district goals, and the board goals have some overlap and some separation, and we really don't have space to talk about that in the rigmarole of our monthly meetings and work sessions. So if we made that as a goal, I think that might be something that it might take a couple of years to really iron out, but I think now is a good time to start working toward that.
Mary?
To add,
No, I know.
to what Emily is saying, and the question is for Matt, could some of that become the process of the fall board retreat?
Sure.
Because there's the place where we really have the time, and not the pressures of the meetings and so forth. So, you know, if
That would
that,
have to be the only thing on there, because it seems
well, we
like
probably
those-
have to be the only thing, because that alone would be a big one, but yeah. Okay, I was just wanting to reconfirm, okay.
And I just wanted to kind of build on what Emily said, because it makes a lot of sense. A lot of what we talked about in our retreats for at least the last 12 months or so has been transformational, educational word out there for you, transformational change for this board. So setting goals and hoping that they can be accomplished in the space of a year, probably not, right? Multi-year goals are very common among boards, especially when you look at district goals that relate to curriculum, because obviously so much has to happen in terms of teacher training and proper content and instruction delivery, etc. All that takes place over a space of time, and of course you have to monitor over time, and you can't get reliable data until you've actually worked with it for a while. So all these really huge changes that you're proposing can and maybe should be multi-year goals.
I think, I agree with you. I think there definitely are multi-year goals because they got layers in them. It's like speaking about the policies because, when you got, legislators controlling, I mean, we could be here for hours about where all the money's gone, the charter schools and all that, and whatever. The thing I have is that, the only thing I say is that we have a lot of these goals, that as a board, we have to be in agreement that what the majority comes to achieve that goal, like we have to accept it, because there could be somebody who's like, well, I still want more information. And it's like, no, that's the amount of information that we can get, or we're required to get, or allowed to get. You understand what I'm trying to say? It's like, I just don't want to see us like stalemate at a goal because, 4 people didn't get the way they wanted it, but 5 people did, you know what I mean?
Well, I'm going to go back to the world's worst NJSBA joke, which is how many board members take to screw in a light bulb?
5.
1.
0.
0 custodians. do
Right,
it,
we don't screw in like, we don't screw in like.
The board says, let there be light.
That's it.
The superintendent then goes and says, I gotta go find the kind of light bulb we need, where we're gonna put it, what hours we're gonna keep it on, how much it's gonna cost, who we're gonna buy it from, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All the details, all the operational pieces are done by the superintendent. You don't need to jump in there in the middle of that and go, hey, that white light bulb you wanted to use, Nick, is no good, we need blue light, because that's the latest thing. No. Once that thing gets put in place, then your proper duty of assessment happens, and is it shining the right time? Is it in the right position? Do we need more of them? How much will they cost, etc.? All that stuff becomes part of the assessment of how that was accomplished, right? So keep in mind when you're asking for the information, is the information pertinent to the role you play in this process?
Mark, getting back to number 2, I'm totally in agreement with what Emily said about past procedure and doing things as they have been. I think we do need to look into ways that perhaps other districts are finalizing their budgets. Perhaps theirs are more effective than what we've been doing in the past. And to keep number 2, I definitely would, and I would just, whether you want to reword it or not, try to reduce spending in all areas and leave it at that rather than putting a percentage in there.
So having visited any number of districts, having been a participant in building 20 school budgets over my time as a board member, I would start to think about this goal in terms of your sort of SMART criteria. And one of the key components of SMART criteria is achievable, right? Is it achievable to reduce spending in all areas by 3% in a school district in New Jersey in 2019?
No,
No.
I don't know.
No.
Bill, can I just say something? A few years ago, the governor made every state department reduce their spending.
Yeah.
So, by, it was like 10% or
30%,
whatever.
30%.
So I don't know if that's undoable or doable, and frankly, it doesn't really matter. If you made a 1% lessening, so you ordered, 10 less packages of paper, can you still survive by ordering? I think in fact this year we've probably already done it because we went to that peach jar and we're not using, paper flyers anymore. But I don't know if it should be a board goal or not, but I don't know if it's necessarily an undoable thing at such a small level. It means instead of spending $100, you're spending $97. I'm not sure that that's not a doable thing in regard to assessing how many pens you're using or how many markers you took. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think it's like a global, so I think the number might be arbitrary just to put a number in there, but I think it's better to evaluate the way we're doing the budget decisions, because I know there are several board members that want to be at every budget meeting, and we had condensed it to be committee meetings, because the committees are more involved with that aspect of the budget, since we had, committees for all the different topics that were, budgeted. So that I think if we want to relook at how we, when I first got on the board, we met as a board of the whole to do the budgeting. Then we changed that to meet as committees. If we want to go back to board of the whole, then, that would be a decision that we could certainly make. It might be something to look at.
I just want to maybe rephrase or recontextualize what I said about you can't do that. Yeah, you can. What are you giving up? Because every department that you spoke of that cut their budget by 10% didn't do all the same work for that money, right? Something had to suffer somewhere.
Well, again, that might be a discussion we can have at another time.
I think
That's where you get
I know
thinking.
that, because I know when I.
It's on number 2.
Cindy's next. Cindy,
If you could roll to the next slide, I just
Yeah.
have a question. Number 10, revisit how the board receives information and deliberates on the, no, that's not the one. What, did we get rid of the goal that said how we receive information, how information is disseminated to the board?
No, that's it.
Well, that's the budget. This wasn't on the budget.
I'm sorry, what was your question?
We might have gotten rid of it then.
Which one? What are you asking?
I was asking about the process that the board members are receiving information regarding our meetings and agendas and whatnot. Wasn't that not on there?
No.
No, it wasn't
It was only regarding the budget.
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
Never mind.
can you the goal of how we get that
I'm
community?
wondering if we could add that into the first and the board committee structure and ideas going through committee, if you could possibly, because to be really honest, I have no idea how many questions are being asked of our central office until we get an email answering the questions. So I was pretty shocked at the amount of questions that there were for this particular meeting that we're having. Having no idea who's sending in the questions and I just can't imagine the time that was spent answering those questions. And I'm not saying that the questions were not valid. Please don't misconstrue. I just want to know if there is a way that we can talk about so that everybody's like on the same page. That's basically where I'm headed.
Mary,
So for number 2, and then I'll add something to what Cindy said. For number 2, I don't like number 2 because it implies that we're not constantly trying to reduce spending. And we are constantly trying to reduce spending. But we can't tell public service, hey, we want to reduce our bill by 3%. We can do it if we shut the lights off in every other
Or
classroom,
you find
but we don't have.
alternative methods like solar possibly.
Right,
So there are
that's
ways.
different.
So there are
That to
ways.
me.
All right, let's stick to Mary.
That to me would be the way that we would explore ways that the district can reduce spending. But not to say try to reduce spending because it looks like we're not trying to reduce spending. And then in terms of what Cindy said a minute ago, really hinged on what you said earlier. And that is that the superintendent should be answering questions if the board wants an answer, not necessarily if an individual board member makes a list. And again, I'm not saying the questions were not good questions, but I think maybe we're not thinking of how much time those questions might consume.
Well, yeah, there's a price to pay for every small task that's thrown at the central office. And there's stuff that they're supposed to be doing every day that they're not doing because they're answering questions that may or may not be relevant to the rest of the board.
So that could be part of a goal that we have, to at least set a pilot.
Mike.
The goals.
All right, so just to piggyback, and I'm going to reply to something in a minute. So I think if we're trying to get this down to 3, what did you say, 3 to 5? 3 to 5?
That's not.
I don't think, again, even without this whole opening up new classrooms and this whole, building referendum and increase in population, I think that there's other things on the budget as far as the other slide, and I don't think this is the year to say to keep number 2 in there at all. And even, in the future, when this district stabilizes as far as getting the new buildings, the new additions up, and getting new classrooms open with the spaces in the elementary school, which is stuff we have to do. I think after that's all done and we stabilize a little bit, that would be the time to do something like that. Mary, with all due respect, when we get the board agenda, it says, if you have any questions, contact the superintendent for answers. So if you're saying then you can't contact the superintendent for questions, it's like.
But that came in, Mike, when I was president, because of a person that constantly blindsided the superintendent by bringing things up in public.
No, I know the reason, but if
so it's not.
It's contradicting it. It's contradicting what we're.
Right.
Is that happening now?
Let's just keep going.
Hello, I have the floor.
You're
I know,
right.
go ahead,
You're
just
right.
keep going with your stuff, go ahead.
So it's just contradicting, and I do agree with you. You have to look at the agenda and say, wait a second, is that the purview of the board? And that's where I think this board gets off track. Is what is, Matt, and you say it all the time to us, what is the purview of the board? Yes, there's stuff that we have to approve by statute, by just, it's stuff we have to approve, but are we going too far into the into the weeds? I get it that we need to, that we should know who he's recommending, just so we're not blindly doing stuff, and so that we're doing our job of overseeing the thing. But we're asking, I almost want a goal to be to maintain asking the questions we're asking are pertinent to the boards, because I think that's our biggest problem at all meetings, at all work sessions, is we go too far into the weeds.
I'm gonna let Matt, 1 second before you go, Matt.
Yeah.
We're starting to run out of time, so after Matt speaks, I got Wilken, Mark, and then we gotta get to, just keep it, if you can try to limit it, because then we gotta get into picking the goals so we can get going.
I'm gonna do 30 seconds.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm just saying everybody.
I just want to be clear that there's a difference between asking clarifying questions about agenda items and requesting a whole new field of study from the superintendent. I'm done.
Wilken.
Okay, maybe I have a different point of view because I just got to the board recently, but and with all due respect, I think we can't be stuck in the past. What was done in the past should stay in the past, and then if we don't have that kind of behavior now, that kind of negative, animosity, I think we need to let it go and think forward, think for the future. I think in regards to the questions, like for the last agenda we received, it was an agenda, a quite extensive agenda. It took me hours to study it and analyze it deeply. And I believe we as board members, I know I got elected to ask questions. And I know I learned at the training for the school boards that asking questions is one of the most important duties, And I was surprised, and I mean this with all sincerity, I was surprised at how few questions were sent for tonight's meeting. It's the longest agenda we have had since January.
Well, I don't.
And if you divide the questions that
No,
were
just to answer
received.
that, just to answer that, because sometimes you don't know if they might just call the superintendent, or
Okay,
they might call
okay.
Mrs. Saccatina or
Okay,
something.
but based on the questions that were answered,
Yeah, I'm saying.
this is the way I see it. Based on the questions that were answered, we have 9 members. If you divide how many questions were answered by how many board members we have, if everybody had 10 questions, we should have more, And everybody have a different way, people know more, everybody have a different way to see things, but I think we need to be inclusive of this issue. We are.
I'm not going to cut you off, but we got anything else, so we're getting off the board goals.
Yes.
All right, we're really getting off the board goals, I want to stay on the board goals. We got 15 minutes.
Yes.
Okay.
For the board goals, I will support multi-year goals, and the ones that I'm in favor of are 1 and 4. The one with the 3% reduction, that will
That's two.
That's 2.
That's
Okay.
number 2.
All right, so that will be taking money out of the classroom, and I'm not comfortable with taking money out of a children's education. I am a parent of a child attending schools. We have some board members here that they have children in the school system, and every dollar you take away from the classroom, it hurts our children.
Mark.
Number 2, I would like to see in whether we word it as Mary said, investigate, whatever. But there's always ways to cut the budget, and always ways to save money. And just regarding what Mike said, the referendum was $25 million. I would hope that the administration, in their wisdom, planned extensively for building, the construction of it, for supplies that are needed in the classroom, for staffing, and for everything else. So it would be, to my surprise, truthfully, if I were to find on a budget that we needed to spend more money for something that we've already considered was what we needed for that particular
Staffing
project.
doesn't come to
Staffing doesn't come to the
I just want to jump in and say, just to clarify, that was not what was included in the $25 million referendum. It was building the school. And we've had multiple conversations as a board, especially what we just went through with approving contractors of what was specifically in it. So I don't want to I'm not misleading anybody, as we talked about it. The $25 million was building 2 middle schools high school air conditioning. It was not about supplies, it was not about teaching salaries, it was not about anything else that came along with it, other than the building of the schools. So I just want to put that out there, and then I'll go back to.
Well, I apologize, but I can see huge increases in the budget forthcoming.
Yes.
Okay. And regarding the agenda, if I may comment on that, you really need to ask yourself what the purpose of the agenda is. And the agenda is really information that is disseminated to the board members so that we as a board are not blindsided from things that are occurring within the district. And it would behoove any member of the board to ask questions that they are not clear on. And in all actuality, I can't see how anybody can understand 100% of the budget and not have any questions regarding 100% of the budget.
All right, Emily, I'm just going to let Elise speak, because you're and then I'll go right to you. Elise?
I just want to say that a couple of them, and I don't know which numbers they are, because I'm on the other page, but where it says like the process by which we evaluate the district goals and the superintendent goals, but it's also the process on how we receive information. And right, I just think that maybe that could be a goal, is to examine our processes regarding information evaluation, like just a general goal, and then we can pick a topic and have a discussion at a work session. I think that could just be like a general goal. That might be a multi-year goal.
What if
We
you
identify
reworded that, go back. What if you reworded that, sorry, just Lisa, you wrote revisit how the board receives information and deliberates on board agenda questions, budget, et cetera, like, so you can lump it in, and that goal
Yeah.
could cover maybe how questions are being disseminated, coming to my way,
Okay.
the budget and so on.
No problem. Now, you have,
Are we going to do 10?
let's put 10 in. Emily,
Right.
10 and like
You're up,
5 or
you're up.
whatever.
My concern with that recommendation, while sensible, is that with the SMART goal, it's not very specific. I think the budget is like a whole class of information and decision-making that's really within the board's jurisdiction, that alone, I mean, it's how the information is presented at public meetings, so that community members want to know about the budget. Like, the budget's a very sensitive, high motion, kind of complex
It is.
decision-making that I think it should remain its own goal. And anything about like questions to the superintendent in advance about regular board monthly business meetings should go under the like looking at how we're running committees and meetings. I'd actually like to can we do a thumbs up or thumbs down or whatever Matt's gonna do? I'm sure we can eliminate some of these right now and be more focused in our discussion with the little time we have. If we just do a little thumbs up,
yeah, you
thumbs
can,
down.
because I have some information about the budget, but I want to keep moving along. So let's just eliminate, so we get the ones up on the board, please. So, again, number 6. Does everybody want to keep number 6? Monitor the implementation of revised substance abuse policies and develop the effective prevention efforts. I personally, I think it's just, it's policy and it's administration's job to provide us with the information on what's going on. I don't think it's our job that if we see something that's not happening, at least you could say, hey, I noticed something wasn't going on, or can we look into this? That's it. I don't think that's our job.
Let's take the vote up
We
and
agree.
down.
Okay? I don't think so. I don't.
Take it off.
6 is coming off. All right.
6 is going.
I wasn't going to take it, I was going to do a straight through, but.
All right, whatever you want to do, Matt. Whatever makes you happy. You're running the PowerPoint.
Oh,
Yeah,
so.
but if you take it off, and maybe we can get to one page, so we can see all of them at the same
Okay.
time.
Here,
Yeah, you
Matt,
gotta-
you're
you gotta-
sending the expert up. See, you always need a student in your class that knows how to do everything.
It wouldn't let me do it here.
Yes,
Then we're
yeah,
down to
we'll
one
take
page.
that one.
Then we're down to one page. We can see it.
Yes, that's right. And
Great help for some reason.
Ron,
Right.
I agree with Emily that we should put all the budget ones together, and that is a specific goal. I agree with Emily.
That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. That's fine. Okay.
Okay.
Monitor
Monitor the,
communication to the public. Yeah, again, that's going to go out. That's all going to
That's
stay in
gonna
there.
happen.
That's not our job to worry about that.
Okay.
everybody thumbs up, thumbs down. What do you
Which
want?
one?
Number 6.
No, I was in
It's only one
this
page now.
Okay. That's another one gone, good. Okay. I think we should eliminate 5.
Number
because
5.
Of course we
No.
do it.
Yeah, that's.
We have
it's
to
a matter
do
of course.
it. Number 5.
Number 5, yeah.
And
Take it away.
Mm-hmm.
Take it away. Whoops.
5 you said, right?
Yes.
5 and 2.
That's like, that's.
I don't know if you want
We've
to.
no choice.
Do you want to?
Which
I
one,
think-
honey, which one are we up to?
Choose the
Can we
3%
say-
one.
I think I think we just
Which
need
one?
to keep track of what they're doing, because it goes back into the budget part of it
Discuss
too.
it enough.
Yeah.
Can we do an up or down on?
Yeah, on number 2, up or down?
Not by 3%.
I want it reworded. I want it reworded.
Well, it's more people down, so it's out.
It's
Get it out.
exact. All right,
It's
out.
not going to be reworded.
Well, what you said,
Don't worry,
you know,
we'll
they
look at it.
looking.
I have a list of all these too, so don't worry.
Go on.
Okay.
I'll find them.
Yes.
Number 3 is
Let's go.
number 1. The new ideas go through committee to the board.
Yeah, number 3 and number 1, we already said it combined, so.
Three more, right, we're gonna combine that. Okay.
There's your 5 if you want to keep them.
What about number 3, explore board policies that can help increase private sources of revenue? We didn't really
Well,
talk about that.
I don't know if we have board
I-
policy.
I
We
don't
already
know.
have
I'm
board
not sure
policies
that's
on
true.
private revenue, private sources
Yes.
of revenues. That was
Question, isn't it the job of the administration to find that information for the board, where we can save money?
Well, where they can save money, or they can come to the board with ideas
Well,
of how
that's
they
not
want.
saving
So
money.
then
No,
it's
no,
not
I'm saying,
a-
but they can come to the board with ideas.
Increased revenue, so
No,
it's
but I'm
not
saying,
a,
yeah, they can come to
so
ideas
it's
with increased
a
revenue.
district, it's a district.
Yeah, so it's really,
So we want to increase revenue.
So that's great, that's cool.
That's it.
Oh,
I think they just need to
2
be
minutes.
rewritten a little.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to, within the smart goals, right?
No. So the real sort of matched up smart criteria comes in the action plan, right? Because that's where you start to detail the stuff.
How we're gonna
You
do it.
guys are doing the Let There Be Light part right now. Nick does the smart stuff, the how we achieve this.
But isn't this smart?
Emily, talk loudly, I'm behind
Smart
you.
goals are qualities of goal statements, so they should be specific, measurable, attainable, forget what it is called.
relevant, realistic.
realistic.
Yeah, so to continue to refine the board committee and meeting structure,
Huh?
Time.
Timely,
Timely?
like less than 5 objectives.
to continue to refine the board committee and meeting structure, like, that's not really a goal statement.
I think it is, because like Gene said, we're still in the embryonic stage, we're still struggling.
Don't forget, it's going to get all detailed. Actually, I made a mistake before. It's not Nick who's doing it, it's Ronnie. Ronnie's going to be writing the action plan.
I was gonna say, I thought I was doing it.
Thank you. You are.
Look,
I move that we eliminate number 3 because we have state representative, state senator, state assembly that speak to the state. And I think we should eliminate 3. We have elected officials at that level.
Emily,
So Sweeney down in Trenton has come up with, what is it, 17 different?
27.
27 different bills right now that propose some state policies that could presumably help New Jersey's tax burden problem. And to say that we're just going to leave that up to our elected state leaders and not as a board get involved in that space or take action in that space, I think we're really missing an opportunity. Jean and I attended the delegates assembly meeting. Myself, I'm the legislative rep. He is the delegates to the Bergen County, then to school boards. And there is a lot of action going on that could benefit us or could really hurt us. And I think it's to our advantage to spend a little bit more time this coming year as a board discussion.
listen, I've said it for years, trust me, before you got on this board, I said I'll go to Trenton and talk to them, and I'm very active in the state. So I know a lot of people down there, and actually the most powerful lobbyist in the state of New Jersey is Blank Wade. I watch this stuff. I agree with you, I don't see a problem with it. I think you have to, I just want you to just be careful to not get too enamored, maybe that's not the correct word, that guys will say something, or women will say they'll do something, and they won't, because they go by party lines. But I still think it's something we have to advocate, because like I stated to you before, if you read that article on the charter schools alone, the money that's wasted on that stuff could fund this entire state and schools, and believe me, would bring taxes down, but that's another story. So anybody want to take 3 out? Give me a thumbs up or down. 3? Want to leave 3
I
in?
think we should leave it.
Wait, take it down?
Take.
No.
How many people want to take 3 out? Sister. All right, we're keeping it in. All right, so I think we're good, Matt. I think we got the 4 that we want and we're going to focus on for 2019 and 20.
Okay, so based on our conversation here tonight, I'm just gonna play with the wording a little bit before I send it back to you.
Yeah, you'll send it back to me, right?
When I send it back to you, it's still a draft.
Yes,
If you guys wanna play with the language some
Yes,
more,
okay.
feel free.
And Nick and I'll get it together.
And then we're going to talk about how some of this can become the whole board retreat.
I'm sure.
What's some of the other?
So you'll have this done by 7:30?
I'll probably do it tomorrow.
Yeah, 'cause you
I'm
got
not
nothing.
promising, because
You got
it's
nothing.
Looks like the superintendent.
You got nothing to do. Any other questions for
But you'll
Matt?
definitely have it by next week, for sure.
That's fine. Any other questions for Matt? Matt, I was pretty impressed today. I thought that I was by noon, I had 12:15. In between 17 phone calls.
I was sitting there when I going,
I've been getting phone calls in my office. Anybody else have any other questions for Matt?
5-minute break.
Okay, so seeing none, I need a motion to,
So moved. Second.
who made the motion? Mike, Elise? All right.
Yeah, if you want.
Oh,
I
you
know we're
want-
gonna do 5-10 minute break, but we could do some closed session items,
Yeah.
which would be really a good idea.
If you want to do that, we can do
Yeah,
that.
all right, why don't we take a break?
All right, we're taking 5 minutes.